So today we're diving into a really fascinating startup idea called ParrotSpeech. And their plan? It's pretty bold. They want to make high-quality AI voices almost free, which could totally flip the entire text-to-speech industry on its head. Let's get into how they're planning to pull it off. But it all starts with a pretty simple question. I mean, think about it. You use services like Discord or Google Translate every single day, and they're free. So why are the really truly realistic AI voices still so ridiculously expensive? The answer to that is the key to ParrotSpeech's entire game plan. So here's the roadmap for this explainer. We're going to start with the huge economic hurdle in voice tech right now. Then we'll pull back the curtain on ParrotSpeech's incredibly clever architecture and the secret sauce that makes it all work. After that, we'll look at their strategy to win the market, and finally, their ultimate vision for the future of voice. All right, let's get right to the heart of the matter, this massive, expensive barrier that I like to think of as the GPU wall. You see, the difference really boils down to this. All those free, massive services, they run on cheap, everyday CPUs. But today's best text-to-speech models, the ones that sound like a real person, they need enormous, super expensive GPUs to do all the heavy lifting. And this dependence on GPUs, it creates a huge bottleneck. The prices for these high-end chips are just skyrocketing, which means the return on investment for any startup trying to build a voice service gets worse and worse. It's a massive wall that stops new companies from even getting in the game. And we're not talking about a small price difference here. No way. The cost of running your infrastructure on GPUs can be 5, even 10 times higher than using CPUs. This is that huge economic wall we were talking about, and it's the very thing ParrotSpeech was designed to completely tear down. So how do you get around a wall like that? Well, you don't try to climb it. You just design a system that doesn't need the wall in the first place. And this is exactly where ParrotSpeech comes into the picture. Its whole mission is to make voice AI accessible to everyone by completely rethinking the technology from the ground up. Okay, to really get why their solution is so smart, we first have to see how it's normally done. A traditional system takes text, converts it into phonetic sounds, generates this complex acoustic map called a MEL spectrogram, and then uses a vocoder to actually create the audio. Every single one of these steps needs some serious computational muscle, forcing the whole thing to run on a pricey server. Now, here comes the brilliant part. This is the core of the ParrotSpeech model. It very strategically splits the workload. The lighter tasks still happen on their server, but that final, most resource-hungry step, the vocoder, gets cleverly offloaded to the user's own device. And here's why that matters so much. ParrotSpeech does the easy part on cheap CPU servers. Then it sends the result over to you. The heavy lifting of turning that into actual audio happens right inside your browser, using this new tech called Web GPU. This simple split completely changes the economics of everything. Okay, I know what you're thinking. How is that even possible? Well, let's pop the hood and take a look at the two key ingredients that make up ParrotSpeech's secret sauce. The first piece of this puzzle is something called flow matching. It's basically a state-of-the-art way to generate that acoustic map we talked about, the MEL spectrogram. It's just way more stable and efficient than the older methods, which is a great first step. But the real breakthrough, the absolute game changer, is something called a stationary velocity field, or SVF. Think of it like this. The old methods had to take hundreds of tiny, complicated steps to get from A to B. SVF finds a much more direct, stable path, basically a superhighway, slashing the number of steps it needs. This innovation makes the model so incredibly efficient that it doesn't need a powerful GPU anymore. It can run perfectly well on a standard CPU. So what about the part that runs on your computer? Well, it's really clever. The model is broken up into tiny pieces and stored right in your browser's local database. You only have to download it once. After that, it's just sitting there, ready to generate audio instantly, turning your browser into a little mini AI engine. Brilliant tech is one thing, but how do you actually win in a crowded market? Well, ParrotSpeech's strategy isn't just about being better, it's about being easier to use for other developers. Their entire philosophy is built right on this idea. The goal isn't to be the flashiest app with the most features. The goal is to be the service that every other developer out there wants to build into their own app. And here is where that strategy really comes to life. When you compare them to GPU-based competitors like Google or 11 Labs, ParrotSpeech isn't just cheaper, it's in a completely different universe. We're talking about a potential cost of less than $1 per million characters compared to $30 for some of their rivals. It's just a fundamentally different and way more scalable system.
Let's just let that sink in for a second. A price drop this huge isn't just about stealing customers. It's about creating a whole new market. This opens the door for thousands of developers and apps that were completely priced out of using high-quality voice AI before.
And their plan is just beautifully simple. They start small, one language, one voice, and they perfect it. They offer it at a price that's an absolute no-brainer for developers. This gets everyone to start using it, which generates tons of data to make the model even better. It creates this powerful virtuous cycle. So you see, this isn't just about building a cheaper text-to-speech tool. The long-term vision is much, much bigger than that. Their roadmap is super methodical. Phase 1 is all about getting the core technology perfect. Phase 2 is about building a community and getting developers on board with an amazing public beta. It's only after that solid foundation is built that they'll expand, add more languages, more features, and start going after those big enterprise customers. And that all leads to the grand vision, to become the Stripe of voice. You know how Stripe made it incredibly easy for any developer to start processing payments? ParrotSpeech wants to do the exact same thing for integrating high-quality voice into any product. So this leaves us with a really fascinating final thought. We're in this era where everyone is just racing to build bigger, more powerful hardware. But ParrotSpeech is betting on a completely different path. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, the next great leap forward in AI won't come from more expensive chips, but from simply being smarter about how we use the amazing technology we already have.